Chapter 1221. With so many people attacking David alone, even if it was copper and steel, it would have vanished long ago. But at this time, David, although injured, was not fatal. One can imagine how terrifying David's body is. Everyone, we can't be frightened by this David, just hold on, this kid will die. Ning Ji saw that some of these people actually wanted to retreat, so he jumped up with his sword. He can't let these people have the mentality of retreating. If someone escapes at this time, the common line of defense established by these people will collapse at that moment. The Luo family took the Mobei martial arts world and failed to destroy the Valley of the Wicked because of this. So Ning Ji didn't want to let this scene happen to him. Ning Ji's shot made the others instantly raise their fighting spirit. Showing their unique skills one by one, they kept bombarding David. David held the dragon-slaying sword and was covered in blood, like a god of killing, and he didn't care about his own life at all. Every sword swing will take the life of a sect master. The golden scales on David's body have disappeared. The undamaged golden body is broken, and David can no longer use it for a short time. Relying only on the flesh, David still gritted his teeth and carried it hard. There are scars and blood holes everywhere, and David's body is no longer intact. But at this moment, David completely ignored it. At this moment, there was only one thought in David's mind. That is kill. Finally, everyone's psychology was defeated, and they all started to retreat. Because they don't know whose life David's next sword will take away. Everyone is in awe. The killing intent on David's body, the momentum that erupted, also made these people terrified. They had never seen such a person. So many people attacked together, not to mention a martial sect, even a marquis. I am afraid that they would not be able to resist. But David, obviously only in the realm of Wuzong, showed the strength of Wu Hao. Young Master Ning, this David is simply a devil. If this goes on, we will be killed and injured countless times. Someone couldn't take it anymore and started talking. Yet, why does this guy seem like he can't be killed? I'm running out of energy now, and I'm afraid I won't be able to support it for long. Young Master Ning, it's not that we fled, it's just that David is too perverted. Some people couldn't bear it and started to withdraw. As a result, more and more people retreated, and the pressure on David became less and less. The dragon-slaying sword in his hand is even more ferocious. In the end, only Ning Ji was left to face David, while the others stood behind Ning Ji. Ning Ji's face became extremely ugly. He didn't expect that these guys were so unreliable. What's more, David's strength has exceeded his expectations by too much. David held the dragon-slaying sword, and his whole person had already become a bloody man, and many bones were exposed in many places, and his appearance was very terrifying. Hand in, or die. David squinted his eyes, the bright red blood made his vision blurred. However, David still gritted his teeth and insisted. Ning Ji's face changed and changed. Even if David in front of him was seriously injured, Ning Ji did not dare to fight alone. At this moment, Ning Ji's heart was already shocked by David's behavior, and he didn't dare to take action. Ning Ji felt a little regretful. He shouldn't have let go of the masters of the Ning family that he had gathered. Ning Ji originally thought that with so many sects and aristocratic families already belonging to the Ning family, even if David left the border, he could still kill David. But he did not expect that under the threat of death, none of these people would really give their lives. Okay, I'll let him go, I'll go get the key. Ning Ji said helplessly after a glint of light flashed in his eyes. Chapter 1222. David looked at Ning Ji coldly and did not speak. And Ning Ji turned around and went to another villa to get the key. When he came to a room, Ning Ji gently pressed his palm on the wall, and a hidden door opened. Ning Ji walked in, and then the door was closed. In the room, there are a lot of magic tools, spirit treasures. This is the place where Ning Ji's father, Ning Dahai, hid the treasure. Ning Ji didn't come to get the key, but to get the magic weapon and prepare to control David with the magic weapon. Ning Zhi's eyes fell on a symbol hanging on the wall. This symbol is the most precious magic weapon in Ningdahai. It is said that this symbol was used by a powerhouse at the peak of Wuhao. After hundreds of years, the powerhouse at the peak of Wuhao has not been able to break through. Finally died of depression. However, he sealed a wisp of Wuhao's peak power in this symbol. Such power is enough to kill everyone in the Kyoto martial arts world in seconds. But this symbol can only be used once. After Ningdahai got this magic weapon, it has always been regarded as the treasure of the town house. With this thing, no one dared to provoke the Ning family easily. David, this time, I will let you die without a corpse. Ning Zhi's eyes flashed coldly, and he reached out and took off the symbol. At this moment, Ning Zhi has completely disregarded the consequences. Putting the symbol in his arms, Ning Zhi walked out of the secret room and then walked towards David. Have you got the key? David looked at Ning Zhi and asked. I got it, you're optimistic. Ning Zhi stretched his hand into his arms, and then took out the symbol. When the symbols appeared, an extremely powerful and simple atmosphere was exuded. When this breath dissipated, David's brows instantly wrinkled. Everyone was surprised when Ning Zhi took out the symbol. Is this the treasure of the Ning family's house? It should be, I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it before. This breath is too powerful. What kind of magic weapon is this? I have never felt this breath before. It's too terrifying. It's stronger than the 5th grade marquee. Everyone was talking. And David's face changed slightly, and he instantly exerted the spiritual power in his body to the extreme. In the dragon crystal, the power of the dragon continued to spread, wrapping David's whole body. The undamaged golden body cannot be used now, and David has to rely on his own body to resist the next attack. And this unknown aura made David feel the danger in his heart. Because this breath is too fast and powerful. Seeing David like this, Ning Zhi smiled proudly. David, this symbol contains the power of Marquis Wu's peak. If you want to kill you in seconds, you will be left with no slag. After David heard this, his face became even more ugly. Although he knew that the power contained in the magic weapon, even the power of the peak of Wuhao, would never reach the true strength of the peak of Wuhao. But even if you can't reach the peak of Wuhao's strength, it's easy to kill yourself in seconds. David's body was wrapped by the power of the dragon, emitting a faint light. David, now you kneel down and kowtow to me to admit your mistake, hand over all your treasures, and I may even spare your life. Ning Zhi looked at David and said, I'm a cherished talent. You are a genius. It's a pity to die like this. Ning Zhi didn't regret David's death, but was afraid that a blow from the peak of Marquis Wu would damage all the treasures on David's body. Especially the town magic tower, that is simply a rare treasure. With the suppression pagoda, it is more effective to practice with less effort, and David is a living example. Ning Zhi thought that if David didn't have the demon suppression tower, it would not have been possible for his strength to grow so fast. Kneel down and admit your mistake. David smiled coldly, are you worthy of this? David burst out with fighting spirit, even in the face of Wuhao's peak power, David would never compromise. Chapter 1223. If that's the case, then go to die. Ning Zhi didn't talk nonsense. His fingers were lightly placed on his forehead, and a drop of blood essence dripped, and then dripped onto the symbol. In an instant, the unremarkable copper symbols radiated light for a while, and bursts of extremely terrifying murderous intent spread out from the copper symbols. Feeling the pervading murderous intent, David gritted his teeth and maximized the power of the dragon. In the face of such a magic weapon, David did not dare to be careless. Looking at David like that, Ning Zhi raised his mouth slightly, it's useless, in front of my magic weapon, you are not even as good as ants. Come on, Ning Zhi threw the symbol in his hand towards David. Soon, the symbols became larger in mid-air, and rays of light emanated from the symbols, shining directly on David's body. In an instant, murderous intent filled the air, and everyone looked at it in astonishment. David gritted his teeth and looked at the symbol that was pressed towards him. David punched it out. Holy Light Fist! A streak of golden light erupted from David's fist. Hit the symbol directly and savagely. It's a pity that this punch didn't see the slightest change on the symbol. Rumbling. The symbol directly pressed David inside. And within the symbols, the power of killing one after another continuously passed over David's body. The treasure of the Ning family's house is so powerful that David has no room to resist. No, how arrogant David was at the beginning, so many of us are not afraid, and now he is directly pressed inside. Wait and see, in less than a quarter of an hour, then David is estimated to have become meat. Seeing that David was suppressed, everyone breathed a sigh of relief and disgust in a low voice. Ning Ji looked at the symbol and felt distressed. The mana of this symbol can only be used once. So after this time, this symbol has become an ordinary thing, not a magic weapon. It's just that people from other sect families don't know about this. Now seeing that the Ning family still has such a powerful magic weapon, they all became more loyal to the Ning family. Everyone, I was disturbed by David today. Let's move to other villa halls, and the banquet will continue. Although these sect families just fought against David, they all had the intention of retreating. But Ning Ji couldn't take this to get angry. After all, these people had just joined the Ning family, so Ning Ji wanted to win over these people. However, just when Ning Ji was about to take people to other halls to continue the banquet, suddenly there was a sound in the symbol. Dong, dong, dong. David seemed to be inside the symbol and began to struggle desperately. What voice, is that David still resisting? Someone looked at the symbol. Don't worry, no matter how much he resists, he won't be able to break free. After 10 minutes, he will become a jerk. Ning Ji said without any worries. This David is too perverted, it doesn't matter if he breaks his golden body, his body is so strong. If it's an ordinary Wuzong, I'm afraid it won't be able to stay within 2 minutes of this symbol. It's a pity that this David has a stubborn personality. If he can bow his head and join the Ning family, we people will have the power to fight with the martial arts alliance. Everyone was discussing and regretting. But just as people were discussing, the voices in the symbols became louder and louder. Not only was there a sound, but the symbols actually appeared one after the other. It's like being smashed out from the inside. This time, everyone was stunned. And Ning Ji's face became even more ugly. At this moment, Ning Ji couldn't express his feelings in his heart. If David can really break the symbol, Ning Ji's face will be beaten. And other people are even more afraid to confront David. Chapter 1224. You must know that this is the peak power of Marquis Wu. Although it is only a ray of divine power, it is not something that a martial sect can withstand. Just when everyone was watching, suddenly there was a deafening sound. The symbol directly broke a gap, and then David walked out slowly. At this moment, David had a golden light flashing on his chest. In David's body, a dragon could faintly be seen circling. David's body has no intact parts, and he is full of scars. How is this possible? Ning Ji looked at him in disbelief. The others were also shocked and stepped back. The power of Wuhao Peak could not kill David. What else can they do? David looked at Ning Ji with scarlet eyes. Even though David was already scarred and sluggish at the moment, the killing intent on his body never diminished in the slightest. Long Jing, it's really a good thing. It can resist the peak of Wuzong's power. But even if you are still alive, you have no ability to resist. Now I can kill you with one finger. Don't be afraid, everyone, look at what he looks like now, what else is there to be afraid of? Ning Ji said to the crowd. Seeing that David is indeed scarred, looking at the crumbling appearance, it seems that a gust of wind can blow him down. This time, everyone regained their confidence and stood behind Ning Ji. This David is just the end of the shot, I will destroy him. At this time, an aristocratic family head shouted angrily and walked towards David. This is an opportunity to make a name for himself. Who can kill David? If this is spread out, it will definitely increase his popularity. And this is what the family head thinks. David is now at the end of the shot, and can be killed with just one palm. He didn't want to miss this opportunity. I saw the aristocratic patriarch jumped high and slapped David with a palm. David looked at the man coldly, and suddenly his eyes flashed coldly, and the looming golden dragon on his body began to become clear. Then, a dragon roar sounded. The golden dragon soared into the sky. They collided directly with the noble family head. No violent explosions, no loud noises. The golden dragon seemed to penetrate the body of the aristocratic family head. Then, the patriarch of the aristocratic family fell heavily from the air. Blood spurted out, and even the internal organs ran out. This noble family patriarch died tragically. And the golden dragon around David's body is getting lighter and slowly disappearing. At this moment, David's aura was extremely sluggish. The dragon-slaying sword in his hand was firmly planted on the ground, which could support David to stand. Although David looks weak, no one dares to try. The corpse of the aristocratic family owner was still lying on the ground. No one wants to take this risk. For a while, the two sides fell into silence and stalemate. Ningxi looked at David gloomily, his eyes full of greed. Whether it's the demon suppression tower or the dragon crystal in David's body, it's a rare treasure. If you get anyone, you will be able to improve your strength by leaps and bounds. At this moment, Ningxi, although he didn't dare to take risks and test David, he immediately thought of someone. After summoning a servant, Ningxi whispered a few words in the servant's ear. The servant left in a hurry. After a short time, the next person returned, but brought a person behind him. The person who brought it was Dong Lakun, the head of the Dong family. When Dong Lakun saw the tragic situation at the scene, after seeing David's embarrassed appearance, his face was full of surprise. And David frowned when he saw Dong Lakun. David didn't know yet that Dong Lakun surrendered to the Ning family. Chapter 1225 Master Ning. Dong Lakun walked up to Ningxi and shouted respectfully. Seeing this scene, David's eyes were full of incredible. In any case, the Dong family and the Ning family are both big families in Kyoto, and they are also on an equal footing. Besides, Dong Lakun's seniority is also higher than Ningxi, so he shouldn't be so respectful to Ningxi. Go kill that David, remember to keep the whole body, he still has what I want. Ningxi ordered to Dong Lakun. Dong Lakun was stunned for a moment, then slowly looked at David with a complicated expression on his face. What? You want to disobey my orders? Seeing Dong Lakun's hesitation, Ningxi's face turned cold. Don't forget who you are now. Ningxi's words are arrogant. What he needs now is to show his rights in front of many aristocratic families. The Dong family, a wealthy family in Kyoto, are so obedient, how can other families dare not to obey? The anger in Dong Lakun's heart was rising, but because Dong Jiahao was in Ningxi's hands, Dong Lakun didn't dare to say anything, so he could only swallow it. Don't dare! Dong Lakun was very obedient. After speaking, he slowly walked towards David. David looked at Dong Lakun with surprise. He couldn't believe that the head of the Dong family would surrender to a junior like Ningxi. David, don't blame me, I have no choice but to. When you go to H3LL, I'll burn you some paper money. After Dong Lakun finished speaking, his breath exploded. Marquis Wu's aura burst out, but it was not something that Wu Zong could compare with. Feeling the breath of Dong Lakun, David's heart sank. He knew that he was doomed. If he was not seriously injured, he might be able to fight with Dong Lakun. There are even many who almost defeated Dong Lakun. After all, David's strength has increased dozens of times. But now, let alone Marquis Wu, even an ordinary master could kill David. Looking at Dong Lakun in front of him, David slowly closed his eyes, waiting for death to come. Dong Lakun raised his palm slowly. He didn't want to shoot, because he knew that after he killed David, if Dong Jiahao knew, he would never forgive him. But if he didn't do it, then Ningji would definitely not let his son go. Dong Lakun had no choice. He never thought that he would be reduced to this point. Maybe this is God's retribution for him. David, do you have any last words? Dong Lakun raised his palm, did not drop it for a long time, facing David. Go ahead. David didn't open his eyes, and his last words were meaningless. Hurry up. Ningji frowned and shouted loudly. Dong Lakun had no choice. A faint white mist flickered on the palm of his hand, and then he slapped David's head with his palm. The howling wind rang in David's ears. David knew that he was going to die soon. But just when Dong Lakun's palm was about to hit David's head, a sudden burst of energy that undoubtedly rivaled him. David opened his eyes, only to find that Dong Lakun in front of him flew upside down like a kite with a broken string. This time, everyone's eyes widened in shock. You must know that Dong Lakun is Marquis of Wu. A Marquis of Wu was so easily repulsed. Who is it? Get out! Ningji roared with an ugly face. Is the martial arts world so rampant now? Don't take our officials seriously. Slowly, Mr. Shi walked out, followed by Zhao Waoqi. Seeing that Mr. Shi was here, everyone was shocked. I didn't know it was Mr. Shi who was here. Please forgive me. Ningji was crazy, but in front of Mr. Shi, he didn't dare to have the slightest temper. He quickly lowered his posture and said, Mr. Shi. The heads of those sect families all shouted respectfully. What sect family, in front of the official, is nothing. Chapter 1226. Mr. Chen. Zhao Waoqi looked at David's tragic state, and hurriedly stepped forward to support David. At this moment, David was relieved, and a mouthful of blood spurted out. Mr. Chen, Mr. Chen. Zhao Waoqi looked panicked. Don't worry, he can't die. After Mr. Shi glanced at David, he said lightly. Pavilion Zhao, I'm fine. David smiled at Zhao Waoqi. Mr. Shi, David broke into my banquet and killed my Ning family. I'm going to teach him a lesson. Ningji looked at Mr. Shi and said humbly. I'll take it away and let everyone else get out of the way. Mr. Shi said calmly. Ningji frowned when he saw that Mr. Shi was going to take David away. You must know that David is now a lamb to be slaughtered. If David is released at this time, I am afraid there will not be such a good opportunity in the future. Mr. Shi, this David destroyed my Ning family villa and killed my Ning family members. You just take him away like this, I snapped. Before Ningji finished speaking, he felt a strong wind blow, and then he fell heavily to the ground. Mr. Shi had a cold face and looked at Ningji with a slightly condensed gaze. Didn't you hear what I said? Ningji slowly got up, his face full of horror. The other members of the sect family were so frightened that they didn't dare to breathe. No one could see how Mr. Shi made his move, but Ningji was directly swept away. I heard, everything is arranged by Mr. Shi. Ningji did not dare to refute in the slightest. Let's go. Mr. Shi said to Zhao Waoqi. Zhao Waoqi hurriedly supported David and planned to leave. But David broke free from Zhao Waoqi, then shook his head and said, Today I have to rescue the 4 evil men, or I will die here. Mr. Chen, in your current situation, where are these people's opponents? Let's leave first. Zhao Waoqi persuaded David. If I don't rescue them, I won't leave, even if I die. David's eyes were firm. Zhao Waoqi looked at Mr. Shi helplessly. Although Mr. Shi's face was displeased, he still turned to look at Ningji. Where are the 4 villains? Mr. Shi asked lightly. Ningji hesitated, and finally said, locked in the dungeon. Take me and let them all go. Mr. Shi's tone was tough, and it was an order. Ning Zhi nodded. He did not dare to go against Mr. Shi's wishes. Even if their Ning family is in cattle, they are not official. Ning Zhi took Mr. Shi and David to the dungeon. The Ning family's dungeon was very dark, and the 4 wicked men were locked inside. Everyone gets a clavicle with a special hook that prevents them from escaping. In the next room, Dong Jiahao was locked. After being locked in the dungeon for this period of time, Dong Jiahao's hair was disheveled and his expression became much duller. Son. When Dong Lakun saw that his son was locked in the dungeon by Ning Zhi, and he became like this, his body suddenly burst into anger. Ning Zhi, I killed you the Fkook, how did you promise me? Killing intent erupted from Dong Lakun's body, and he slapped Ning Zhi with one palm. Dong Lakun always thought that Ning Zhi just put Dong Jiahao under house arrest, but in terms of food, clothing, housing, and transportation, it should not be too harsh. But who knows, this Ning Zhi actually locked Dong Jiahao in the dungeon. Ning Zhi panicked, and quickly retreated. As soon as Dong Lakun made his move, Mr. Shi waved his palm, and Dong Lakun was instantly controlled by the wall, unable to move. You must know that Dong Lakun is Marquis of Wu, and in front of Mr. Shi, he is so unbearable. It can be seen how strong this Mr. Shi is. Is this when I don't exist? Whoever dares to do it again, don't blame me for being ruthless. After Mr. Shi finished speaking, his energy was withdrawn, and Dong Lakun fell to the ground. Chapter 1227. Everyone looked at Mr. Shi and didn't dare to let out the air. Dong Lakun got up, and opened the iron gate in front of him with one palm, saving Dong Jiahao. Seeing Dong Lakun, Dong Jiahao burst into tears. During this time, he did not know how much he suffered. At this moment, David looked like an animal, the 4 wicked men who were suspended in the air, and the anger in his eyes was burning. David slowly grabbed the iron gate and fence in front of him with both hands. Immediately afterwards, a faint blue flame began to burn. The hard iron fence began to slowly melt. David's eyes were scarlet, and he gritted his teeth, using the last bit of spiritual power in his body that could be mobilized. When the door was opened, David spat out a mouthful of blood. Mr. Chen! The 4 wicked men all exclaimed when they saw David spit out blood. Zhao Waoqi stepped forward to help David, but David waved his hand to stop him. Dragging his extremely tired body, David stepped forward and rescued the 4 evil men from the iron hook. Freed from the iron hook, the strength of the 4 villains instantly recovered. Ding Dabu stepped forward to support David, his eyes full of shame and said, Mr. Chen, I'm sorry. David looked at the 2 blood holes on the shoulder armor of the 4 villains, and his eyes were full of remorse. They suffered so much because they protected him. Ding didn't see the self-blame in David's eyes, so he immediately said, Mr. Chen, this injury on our body is nothing, but you are too weak now. Mr. Chen, our 4 brothers have gone through all the scenes. This injury is nothing. Ding Buzan said carelessly. Let's go. After David finished speaking, he was supported by Ding Dabu and walked out slowly. When passing by Ning Zhi, David suddenly stopped and looked at Ning Zhi fiercely. Remember, within 10 days, I will make your Ning family disappear. After finishing speaking, David glanced at the people from the sect family behind Ning Zhi, and you, all the people who belong to the Ning family are going to die. Ning Zhi narrowed his eyes and stared at David, but he didn't say a word, but finally looked at Mr. Shi and said, Mr. Shi, is it too much for David to threaten me like this in front of you? Not giving you face anymore. David, if you dare to make trouble in Kyoto, don't blame me for taking you to the heavenly prison. Mr. Shi said with a serious face. David did not speak, but turned around and walked out of the dungeon. Dong Lakun also walked out with Dong Jiahao. When leaving the Ning family, Dong Lakun's eyes were filled with ferocity and murderous intent. This time, the Dong family and the Ning family will be deadly enemies. You should leave the capital recently, I can't protect you all the time. If I didn't show up today, you would be a corpse now. Your strength is really good, but it's not enough to challenge many families. After leaving Ning's house, Mr. Shi said to David. David didn't speak, his eyes were still filled with killing intent, and it seemed that the Ning family would not be destroyed, and he probably wouldn't leave the capital. Seeing David like this, Mr. Shi shook his head and left. David followed the four villains back to the Valley of the Villains. And David asked Zhao Liguo to directly relocate the entire Wuying villa to the Valley of the Wicked. In this fierce battle in the Valley of the Wicked, there were almost no casualties. David decided to rebuild the Valley of the Wicked. In addition, Shadowless Villa is in Kyoto, crisscrossing with the forces of the major families, and it is easy to be attacked. Relocating Shadowless Villa to the Valley of the Wicked is better geographically and safer. There is also Shadowless Villa and the Valley of the Wicked as a Hall of the Dragon Sect, and it is not inappropriate to merge them together. Chapter 1228. 3 days later. With the blessing of the Demon Suppression Tower, David's injury has been healed, and the spiritual power in his body is also full of incomparable. The four wicked men were all arranged by David to enter the Demon Tower for training and healing. However, the healing speed of the four villains is much slower than that of David. It would take at least 10 days and a half for the four of them to recover to their peak. When David came out of the Demon Suppression Tower, he found that Zhao Chuang led people around him. These tower guards are all the most elite people in Shadowless Villa. Brother Chen. Seeing David coming out, Zhao Chuang hurried up to meet him. Zhao Chuang, how long have I been in the tower? David asked Zhao Chuang. Inside the tower, he had no way of estimating the time. 3 days, I didn't expect your body to recover so well in 3 days. Zhao Chuang looked at David and said. David was also a little surprised. He did not expect that within 3 days, his body would recover, and his spiritual power became extremely full. You cultivate well in the valley, I'll go out. David patted Zhao Chuang on the shoulder and said. Brother Chen, what are you going to do? Zhao Chuang asked in confusion. David's eyes showed killing intent. I will destroy the Ning family and avenge my dead brother. After speaking, David walked out. Brother Chen, it's too dangerous for you to go alone. I'll go tell my dad and let him take someone with you. Zhao Chuang hurriedly said to David. No, you stay in the valley and no one can leave. After speaking, David's figure disappeared in Taniguchi. David was dressed in black with a black hat on his head. If you don't look closely, it's hard to tell it's him. When David went to the boundary of Kyoto, the cold light in his eyes flashed instantly. When David stepped into the capital, the first thing he did was to call Zhao Waoqi. He and Zhao Waoqi asked for all those sect families that were attached to the Ning family. David said that he was going to destroy the Ning family. And those sect families that were attached to the Ning family also belonged to the Ning family's forces. Although Zhao Waoqi didn't know what David was going to do, he still gave David the list. Looking at the sect families on the list, the killing intent on David rose. Xianyang sect is a small sect in Kyoto. The Yang sect master of Xianyang sect is only a 6th rank martial sect. Many times, Xuanyangzong applied to join the martial arts alliance, but because of insufficient conditions, he was not able to join. Such small sects are all over the capital, so Xianyang sect hopes to find a backer. Only in this way can I live in Kyoto safely. Since he could not join the martial arts alliance, Xianyang sect chose to be attached to the Ning family when the Ning family had a great reputation. And that night, sect master Yang of Xianyang sect was in his room, sleeping with his newly married C0 cub, Ne. But in the sect, a black shadow has entered. Soon, the entire Xianyang sect was mourning, and the fire was soaring into the sky. Sect master Yang of Xianyang sect was also awakened and walked out with a weapon inside. When he saw the corpses all over the ground and the entire sect was almost slaughtered, he was stunned. Who are you? Sect master Yang looked at the man dressed in black in front of him and roared angrily. And David slowly turned around after killing the last disciple of Xianyang sect. When sect master Yang saw David, he was shocked. Chen! David! Sect master Yang showed panic in his eyes. When David was besieged that day, he was also there. David looked at sect master Yang coldly, waved his hand, and a strong wind rushed out. Sect master Yang's head was chopped off by the strong wind. David slowly bent over and lifted the head up. At this moment, in David's eyes, he could not see the slightest emotion. Like a killing machine. The next one. David left with the head. Chapter 1229. Just one night. 6 sect families in Kyoto were destroyed. Without exception, these sect families are all attached to the Ning family. In Kyoto, everyone dared to do this and had a clear goal. Everyone immediately pointed the finger at David. This David is really a man. After only 3 days, he returned with revenge. This time, it is estimated that the Ning family will have a headache. Let's wait and see today. Many aristocratic sects will issue a statement and leave the Ning family. Everyone was talking about it. And at this moment, in the Ning family hall, Ning Zhi's face flushed with anger, and he smashed the coffee table in front of him with one palm. David, you're deceiving people too much, I'm going to kill you. Ning Zhi roared, his eyes full of anger. Master, now many aristocratic sects have issued statements and left our Ning family. On the martial arts forum, many people are watching our Ning family's jokes. The butler said in a low voice. Ning Zhi's whole body was trembling with anger. He didn't expect that the Ning family, which was so beautiful a few days ago, became a joke at this moment. Even though Ning Zhi's mind was meticulous and he didn't like it, he was mad at the moment. Go and call back all the middle and high-level members of the Ning family. Then David will definitely come here. I will wait for him here. This time even if the King of Heaven comes, I will kill him. Ning Zhi gritted his teeth. Soon, the middle and high-level powerhouses outside the Ning family were all called together again. These are the main force of the Ning family, but now that they are all called back, the forces outside the Ning family are bound to be affected. Kyoto Budo Alliance. Zhu Zishan gathered together several big family patriarchs in the alliance. Among them is Long Jingguo of the Long family. This time the meeting was different from the past, because there were a few more people wearing black clothes and covering their faces with black scarves at this meeting. When they saw these people, the heads of the major families were all slightly taken aback. Because in the martial arts alliance, I have never seen these people before. I called you here today to talk about David. Have you heard what happened last night? Zhu Zishan asked slowly. I heard that David destroyed 6 sect families overnight, all of them attached to the Ning family. Someone answered. This David's courage is indeed beyond my expectations. The more this guy is like this, the more careful we must be. Especially Mr. Shi, who has been taking special care of this David. If Mr. Shi hadn't come forward, David would have died in the Ning family long ago. It seems that we want to deal with that David, and we also have to come up with a foolproof strategy, and we can't let Mr. Shi get the hang of it. Zhu Zishan frowned slightly. Let's just send someone to assassinate David. Who can find out? Said a homeowner. How can it be so easy? Don't take the government so badly, maybe Mr. Shi can see our every move. Zhu Zishan said. Then what should we do? Send someone to challenge that David? But there are very few people in the younger generation who can rival that David. If we old guys come forward to challenge, it will become a joke in the entire martial arts world. Long Jingguo asked. Of course there is a way, we can't come forward to kill him, but someone can come forward. After Zhu Zishan finished speaking, he glanced at a few men in black and said slowly, these people are here to deal with David, so you need to cooperate with them and provide information. The heads of several big families looked at the man in black in front of them and looked at each other, wanting to say something, but no one said anything. I wish the alliance leader, who are these people? They won't be evil cultivators, right? Long Jingguo asked. Chapter 1230. Because when they came in, they felt that the breath of these people was a little different. Yes, they are indeed evil cultivators. Zhu Zishan nodded and admitted. This time, Long Jingguo and the others were frightened, and their expressions changed greatly. None of them expected that Zhu Zishan would so happily admit that these people were evil cultivators. And don't hide it from them. I wish the alliance leader, what do you mean? Don't you know the consequences of colluding with evil cultivators? If this is officially known, we will all be out of luck. Long Jingguo said solemnly. Do you think we won't be unlucky if the officials don't know? Zhu Zishan snorted coldly. Let me tell you, the martial arts world in the entire Kyoto is about to be reshuffled. It won't take long before many sects and aristocratic families will disappear. And those evil cultivators and masters hidden in the dark will slowly surface. Don't be naive to think that those evil cultivators have really been eliminated. In fact, they are all hiding in the dark, even beside you and me. Mr. Shi is so condoning that David. A large part of the reason is that he wants David to muddy the water in the martial arts world, and then the officials will use trumped-up charges to catch us all. We can only do it first, let these evil cultivators kill David, and Mr. Shi will not suspect us at that time. Zhu Zishan's words caused the several patriarchs to fall into contemplation. I wish the leader of the alliance, that day, the sect master of the Evil Gate, Zhang Qing, was also sent by you to kill David. Long Jingguo remembered that some time ago, on the high-profile road, the Tibetan Qing who wanted to kill David came. These evil cultivators are all hidden in the dark, who follow David without any grievances, but suddenly show up in a high-profile manner and want to kill David. There must be someone directing him. Yes, I ordered it. Zhu Zishan nodded. It's just that this guy is too weak to be killed by that David. Several patriarchs looked at Zhu Zishan in amazement, wondering what kind of ability Zhu Zishan had to be able to order those evil cultivators. I wish the alliance leader, who are you? Why do those evil cultivators listen to you? Long Jingguo expressed his doubts. You don't need to ask about these, you just need to remember that we are grasshoppers on a rope now, and no one can run away. Since I chose Gao to tell you this, I'm not afraid of your nonsense, understand? After Zhu Zishan finished speaking, behind Zhu Zishan, a terrifying aura suddenly enveloped the entire conference room. Feeling this breath, whether it was Long Jingguo or the other patriarchs, their eyes were wide open and their faces were full of horror. They have never felt such a powerful breath. You must know that each of Long Jingguo and the others are in the realm of Marquis, and what kind of realm has their strength reached? But soon, the breath was withdrawn, as if it had never been revealed. Several patriarchs looked at Zhu Zishan with very complicated expressions. They knew that such a terrifying aura would never come from Zhu Zishan. This shows that behind Zhu Zishan, there are more powerful characters. I wish the alliance leader, you can rest assured, what should be said and what should not be said, we know in our hearts. Long Jingguo reacted at this time and said. Zhu Zishan chuckled, that's good, I believe that you can understand the painstaking efforts of the Long family. Today's meeting is here, and I won't send it. After Zhu Zishan finished speaking, Long Jingguo and the others got up and left. After Long Jingguo and the others left, an eerie voice came from behind Zhu Zishan, that girl's blood is indeed a good thing. I can already feel the changes in my body. I also feel that my magical power is about to be completed. By then, the entire Kyoto martial arts world, and even the entire Daxia martial arts world, will respect us. There was greed and desire in Zhu Zishan's eyes.